interesting article, but the orientation of UPSC when it comes to science and technology. In science and technology, you are not going to have PhD level questions. We will have to simplify to the extent that they will only ask the basics. So in this present article, what is it that you have to know? So I'll tell you how normal computers work at a very superficial level. I'm not expecting you to know to the semiconductor level the basics of how the chip is designed, how current flows, etc., etc. So let me simplify that. In material technology, in the present computing, there are certain limitations. And the first limitation is that there is electrons, which are the basis for transmitting information within the chip. The chips are the basic units which are behind this technology, entire flow of technology. So there is a problem with this. And here you have to know the concepts of speed of light. Usually when information is passed in a computer, you are not witnessing transfer of information which is at the range of speed of light. So why is that happening? Because electricity or information or packets of energy are passed because of this electrons which do not have the speed of the light. They are less than the speed of the light. Now compare that with internet. Internet through optical fibers is passed through photons. So these are different particles. These have certain mass. These are literally massless. These electrons can have a charge, they do not have a charge. So anywhere you find light, you will see photons. And anywhere there is mass and energy, you will see electrons. Now in a chip, let's say for example, there is a chip like silicon based chips. These silicon based chips are packed very densely. And whenever there is information flow, you will notice that this silicons will have electrons and therefore heat will be generated. Whenever there is generation of heat within a very densely packed system, you will see your laptops getting heated up, right? Some energy is lost, which will make it inefficient. And there needs to be a safe outlet for this entire energy. So there is in a world that is increasingly driven by AI, there is a need for you to figure out ways where you can cross this certain threshold. There is an upper ceiling set by this present way of doing things, of computing, electron based computing, where there is a upper threshold. You cannot cross that barrier that easily. Yesterday we were talking about supercomputers, right? How does supercomputing as a principle work? Multiple computers working in parallel. There is a parallel computing technology, principle that is at place. Even at that scale also, whatever AI data, you need to crunch huge numbers, huge data sets are supposed to be processed. And the present way of dealing things, the material technology at this point of time, there is a limitation of speed, energy dissipation, and how many semiconductors you can pack in a very small area. If we have to cross the threshold of supercomputing and make quick, efficient computing affordable to common people, there is a need to fundamentally look at or figure out an alternative way of using light and the properties therein. This is the level of knowledge that you need to know. The next steps that we are discussing are probably not how UPSC will expect you to understand it, and UPSC may not ask that level of questions. But since we brought the topic up, I'm briefly telling you what is the method here. So the article suggests that we use the technology of how we manipulate these photons and change the properties of light, bend them at a certain change the frequency. Basically, you know that the color of any color will have a certain frequency. If you know the electromagnetic spectrum, which you must have studied in your school level, the light that we see has a certain frequency between 400 nanometers and 700 nanometers. This is the frequency. So when you compress these photons and the properties of light, there is a possibility that this frequency changes. You compress it in a very small area, and by using that properties of light, you can deliver larger chunks of data with minimal energy loss, which makes AI based computing even more efficient. And that is the funda here. Clear? That is all you need to know. The difference between electron based computing and photon based computing is the fact that it is much faster, much more efficient, energy will be conserved. These are the things that you need to know. Okay, let's move on. Why is India not importing corn from the US? I think we have already discussed this when Trump was imposing tariffs. Long story short, we don't need it. We are not importing because we simply don't need it. We are the largest producer of corn, maize, basically. We don't need it. And yet sometimes we are importing it from our neighboring countries, and also sometimes from countries like Ukraine, because it is the main feed for our poultry industry. That is one reason why we are importing. There is a demand mismatch. Temporary gap will be there. That's why we are importing. The second reason is primarily the fact that it is GM, genetically modified crop. And we do not give approval to this genetically modified crops that easily, because it can alter the genetic makeup of the local crops. Unless and until the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. Go back to the basics and see where you will find this GAC. Some homework for you. What are the crops that GEAC gave approval to till now? Mustard. Are you sure? Go back and check. So there was a previous year question on mustard. So you must be confused. Did GEAC give approval for plantation? Do we have genetically modified mustard, genetically modified brinjal for commercial cultivation? Yes or no? Go back and check. Okay? Fine. What is the law that regulates this? Is it Environment Protection Act or Biodiversity Act? What is the role of Nagoya Protocol in this Biodiversity Act? See the linkages. Okay, these are important for your prelims. Most of the prelims questions come like this only. Clear? So long story short, why are we not importing? We don't need it. Two reasons. If we are the largest producer, and if there is a temporary shortfall, why will we put so much cost and import it all the way from US when we can do it from Thailand? The cost of logistics will be much cheaper. And if we think we need it even more, we will go for alternative, Ukraine. Now that we have Russia-Ukraine war, we will figure out somewhere in Southeast Asia. What is so special about corn from US that we have to, import from there? Unless and until the cost is justified, there is no reason. And secondly, apart from these practical reasons, other set of reasons include the protection that we provide for our local farmers. Okay, these are the reasons. A very lengthy article about it, but that's about it. PHC doctors, a case where caregivers need care. Okay, this is an interesting article. See, if you take a look at our healthcare infrastructure, you have the primary healthcare centers, secondary, and then finally you have the city level or district level hospitals, which are the tertiary care centers. So super specialty hospitals, I would rather say. The problem with India's healthcare system is that at the bottommost rung of the ladder you have this primary healthcare centers, right? There the work is more, but they are underpaid and under recognized. See, for every 30 to 70,000 population, you are supposed to have one primary healthcare center, or I would rather say this is the present situation right now, but it is just not enough. How many doctors would you find in this primary healthcare centers? On time, on duty? Very few. Sometimes most of these primary healthcare centers do not even have a qualified doctor. It is run by normal RMPs, that is registered medical practitioners who are not MBBS. Even they will have a lot of burden. They will also have practical knowledge. If you understand the whole concept of universal healthcare, the whole objective of universal healthcare, are we actually providing universal healthcare now? What is your take? Are we giving universal healthcare? Yes or no? It depends on what you define as healthcare. If you stop your definition of healthcare at just providing vaccines, maybe we are giving universal healthcare. There are two kinds of diseases: communicable, non-communicable. So, at every level, there is a specific role that these structures of our healthcare system, they should perform their own role. And when it comes to the primary healthcare centers, the role that these stakeholders play in the overall healthcare delivery is, one, prevent this communicable diseases, like say for example TB, malaria, dengue, and various other preventable diseases. Okay? And when it comes to non-communicable diseases, you have diabetes, BP, blood pressure, cancers. They are also called lifestyle diseases. And there is hardly anything that medicines can do here. They can only help in the management of this once they are occurred. So, what can we do to reduce the incidence of non-communicable diseases at village level? Maybe increase awareness. That burden is also on the doctors at the primary healthcare centers. This is not the only problem. Let's see a very practical observation, which may not be given in the article, but let's see. Where would you find most of the medical colleges? Cities or district headquarters. Let's take the case of Telangana itself. I have been telling this example as late as 2013-14. For both Warangal and Karimnagar, there is only one hospital, the Mahatma Gandhi Hospital in Warangal. I have seen this practical case. Someone from Karimnagar district, when they have a snake bite, because the primary healthcare center was not functioning, they had to run to Warangal, which is at least 70 to 100 kilometers away. do you think they will have the time to survive? But that's the case. What if you have a functional primary healthcare center? One of the reasons why primary healthcare centers aren't functioning is because doctors are not available. Most of them are getting educated in the cities. They would want to settle in cities. When you go to the village level, there is no career progression. There is no work satisfaction. Why am I saying there is no work satisfaction? You're studying for 6.5 years. Then you study for your masters, and then it's almost 10 years. After 10 years of hard work, you are going to sit at a village level just to check BP, which an RMP can do. And all the donkey work, that is how they consider it. Because even now, there is no digitization at ground level. Doctors, after all this education, they feel that this is not the work we should be doing. We are entering records, we are taking care and regulating all the Anganwadis, auxiliary midwives, the ASHA workers, all these small schemes that the government have. I mean, they're not small schemes in the sense that the scale is not small. It's a very huge scale, pan-India scale, but maybe these doctors feel that they're overqualified and they don't want to stay in those places. So, the very medical education impartment is very distorted regionally. Doctors, I mean, the students who are pursuing medical education are attracted to the peri-urban and urban centers, but they find it difficult to go back and settle at their hometown. You also see another trend. In cities, there is a severe competition. Even if you have an MD, doctors don't get paid good salaries. In tier 2 towns, let's say for example Warangal, Karimnagar, like district headquarters, you witness a trend where doctors, if they gain decent reputation, will earn lakhs. But again, they don't want to go to the inner pockets and inner villages. They want to settle in the district headquarters only because they have decent infrastructure. This is the ground reality. And it is fair on part of doctors, but that is not the problem of medical education per se. The state should figure out. There should be an incentive structure where these primary healthcare centers work. So, there is a huge employment opportunity at the grassroots level when you increase the number of medical practitioners. See, to administer these basic vaccines, to ensure that the primary healthcare services are delivered, we collect time to time data of all the local population about their health, the vital signs, the BP, the blood sugar levels, to maintain a record of all this health. You don't need to be a doctor. You can just be a registered medical practitioner. And this gives us an opportunity to provide employment at the local level. Imagine a scenario when India can provide 10 lakh jobs at the grassroots level in primary healthcare centers. When you can prevent so many communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, by increasing awareness, the grassroots level movement, the so-called Jana Andolan. See, the article did not cover all these points, so I'm just telling you my own understanding from other articles that I've read as well. If we are spending so much, there is a double impact. One, you are creating employment that is state driven, and it should not be a permanent government job. This is my view. It should be a contractual basis because it should be linked to your performance. Time to time update of records. That is the accountability mechanism you will have. As long as you are performing, you will have your job security as a registered medical practitioner. That is one way. Then you have something called the National Digital Health Mission. What is this? It's like a tech stack. For example, you have something like UPI, which is the platform on which all these apps like Phone Pay, Google Pay, Paytm, etc. are functioning, right? Similarly, you create a tech stack where different players in the healthcare industry can participate. It's like a modular design where you plug and play around with those technologies. So let's say you have a tech provider who will ensure easy entry of records, digital health records of every patient or every citizen. You know the real-time snapshot of a person. That is possible through tech. Now, combined with RMPs, you're also creating grassroots level employment for collecting this data at village level itself. That is also an employment opportunity for these tech companies. So simply put, if we can avoid this, communicable diseases as well as the lifestyle diseases cost. See, there is a huge cost that this country should bear if India remains unhealthy. If the same cost is incurred by the state, and I would rather say it is not a cost incurred, I would say it is an investment into our future. We would be generating so many jobs, we would be keeping the country healthy, we would also don't have to depend always on the external sector. Combine with this insurance services through you recently there was a portal, Bima Sugam portal or something, which is just like UPI only, where all the insurance providers can come onto that platform. It's like Policy Bazaar, which is a website where all the companies can sell their insurance policies. Now government itself came up with that. Of course, it's a different thing now. We have to see how Policy Bazaar will survive this, because it's literally like their entire business is gone now if government takes over. Anyway, coming back to the issue. So on this National Digital Health Mission platform itself, like whatever is the tech stack, hospitals, technology providers, registered medical practitioners, doctors, patients, everybody, every stakeholder can be on that platform. It's like you heard about this platform called Practo. Know that? You can find and consult an online doctor. We can create such kind of platforms with government intervention at a very low cost, which will make affordable healthcare accessible to the millions in this country. It improves, even because of the crowding effect, insurance premiums will come down. Every industry will, get better. But that is not happening. You know why? For the simple fact that healthcare sector is at the mercy of a few investors. And healthcare is driven by an insurance model. So obviously, whatever the government programs you're talking about will have to be dealt at the primary healthcare centers through these doctors. Unless the root model is itself fixed, these issues will continue to persist. And that is a takeaway. Okay, too loud to ignore. Why Indians should care about noise pollution in cities? See, very simple, straightforward, obvious. Why should you care about noise? What is the common sense telling you? Do you like noise? No, right? Why should you care? Because it is reaching unreasonable levels. Why is it happening? 3 reasons are given. First reason, inadequate monitoring. So we don't know from where the sound is coming exactly. It is just coming around. Like we don't have a policy to figure out where that is coming from. That's the first problem. Second problem, structural and cultural barriers without recognition that noise can be harmful. Many citizens can tolerate or even participate in noisy practices. There is a culture here. There is a cultural issue. How many of you recently observed after this theaters were retrofitted with this Dolby Atmos sound? Did you feel that the sound is actually louder than what you can tolerate? But if it is your favorite hero's movie, you tolerate it. And you are even excited and you shout at the top of your lungs, adding more noise. That is exactly what they are telling you. In a very sophisticated way. So that nobody is offended. The louder the music, the more money they can extract from you. Anyway, third one, governance is fragmented. Pollution control boards, municipalities and police all have partial jurisdiction, limited resources and weak incentives to act. Do I have to explain that? See, take any procession. Who should give the permission? Police. Who controls, what is the legal procedure to regulate noise? Ironically, permission is given by police, but regulation should be enforced by the pollution control board. That is one issue. And even municipalities sometimes have a say on this in some areas. For example, what is the ambient sound tolerance limit? That will be sometimes decided by municipalities, sometimes by police. And because there is no clear legal architecture, nobody knows how to deal this issue. So obviously what will happen? There's noise pollution. What will happen if there is noise pollution? Your health will be impacted, you will be irritated, and it's a spiraling effect. In urbanization, that's going to be a very big problem. There is a very interesting satire when it comes to the sound pollution. How many of you know this movie from 90s or late 80s? There is this silent movie of Kamal Hassan, Pushpak Vimanam. Yeah. In that movie, the hero, that is Kamal Hassan, is actually from a very noisy, neighborhood. He gets a chance to sleep in a 5-star hotel, which is very calm. On first day, he tries to sleep, but he just cannot sleep. So he's so used to that noise that he goes back to his neighborhood, records that sounds, comes back, puts a tape on. Once that sounds are there, he sleeps peacefully. It's a kind of a satirical movie. So, as a cultural issue, we need to prioritize that sound pollution can also be an issue, an irritant in our health. With growing urbanization, growing traffic congestion, I've time and again taken this example. Imagine when you're at a traffic signal, you see the minute the red turns into green, everybody starts honking. I always wonder, as if the first person standing in that line is watching a movie. He's also interested in leaving only. But somehow they start honking. This is a cultural issue. Anywhere in the West, the people would treat it like it's a disrespect when you start honking, but not in India. Cultural issue. That's what this article says. You can read it and just note down anything that you feel is important. Now this issue. 28 states in India. This is a CAG report. 59.6 lakh crores, almost trebled in 10 years. So what is it saying? Basically, thanks to COVID and also the whole freebie model of governance, states are spending more and more money. See, the reason why I picked up this statistic is because every year in your GS2, you will get a question on federalism. Even this time you have something called, you've had a specific question from GS2, question number 11. Fiscal health index, fiscal health monitor. What is it talking about? What is the progress report of a state's financial situation? So same thing is discussed here by CAG. Long story short, if you are spending money on capital projects, something that can give you returns in the long run, then taking debt is okay. But if you are using that to fund revenue expenditure, it will be a problem. Same thing is used, the same logic is used in CAG report, and they came up with a suggestion that we have to learn how to manage our revenue collections and also how we spend that. We need a public debt management agency, and this has been a suggestion which is discussed from almost a decade now. Okay, this theme will repeat again and again, so you can use this as a statistic to substantiate this claim. That's all. Isobutanol. Ethanol was blended with petrol. There are reports that engines are now corroding, and a lot of people thought diesel cars are safe, so they started mixing isobutanol with diesel. Ethanol wasn't working out. Why? Because it catches fire very easily. Ethanol has lower flash point, so even if the car is placed in a very high temperature zone, it's unsafe in summers. It can blend well with petrol but not with diesel. That is one reason. So they want to mix another component called isobutanol because it has a even higher flash point and it is not that easy to catch fire. This is all you need to know. Okay, whether it will happen, when it will happen, we will see. If the experiment succeeds, you will definitely know. If you have a diesel car, you will definitely know. That's about it. Okay, the discussion behind all this sugarcane farmers, the basics of how price is discovered by sugarcane farmers, etc., that has been discussed in the past, and I request you to go back and see this FRP mechanism again. It's all explained here, nothing new to explain here. Okay, that's it for today.